Great. So welcome, everyone. You are here at the Art is Everywhere Grant information session. My name is Margo Saulnier. I will be your host for the next about 60 minutes. And I'm also joined by Ceuma Rosa. Ceuma, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ceuma Rosa, and I will be translating the meeting today into Spanish and Portuguese. Buenas tardes a todos. Me llamo Ceuma Rosa y voy a traducir el programa hoy para ustedes. Boa tarde, meu nome é Ceuma Rosa e vou traduzir o programa para vocês hoje.
Great, thank you. And I'm going to ask if anyone requires translation today. If no one requires it, we are going to proceed in English only. And Ceuma is available if anyone needs help filling out the grant or with the grant in Spanish and Portuguese, not just today, but throughout the next month. And then
before you proceed, let me just let them know that if they need assistance translating, I will be available. Se alguém precisa de assistência em traduzir o programa ou se precisa de assistência em preencher os formulários para o programa, eu vou estar aqui para assisti-lo. A Margo vai vos mandar a informação como entrar em contato comigo. Se alguém necessita de ajuda em llenar los formularios, Margo les va a hacer un referido para mí y les puedo ayudar en su horario preferido. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So on the screen, you should all be seeing today's agenda. I am going to do a brief overview of New Bedford Creative and as well as our funders, where the funding for this grant is coming from, as well as give you a few examples of past grant recipients who received the Art is Everywhere grant, and then review the eligibility and application and any questions that you have. Well, we'll get to it, but there's a few changes this year. There's no changes if you've applied in the past to the actual grant questions. It's the same as last year. There are, however, a couple what we think are good changes to make this an easier process for anyone applying. But before we get there, let me begin with an overview of New Bedford Creative. So New Bedford Creative is housed at the New Bedford Economic Development Council, and we are responsible for implementing the City of New Bedford's Arts and Culture Plan. It was published in December, or the fall rather, of 2018, with implementation beginning in 2019. So we've been doing that for a few years now. It's called New Bedford Creative, Our Art, Our Culture, Our Future. And what you have here on the screen is the vision of the Arts and Culture Plan. And that is that in New Bedford, the creative community is an engaged and powerful partner, inspiring social, economic, and cultural growth in this authentic seaport city. Each and every person enjoys the opportunity to experience a diversity of cultures. Art is everywhere, encouraging fun, provoking thought, and nurturing the soul. So I would like to review our funders. This grant is one component of MassDevelopment TDI's Creative Cities initiative. So first, MassDevelopment TDI is a program specifically for gateway cities that's designed to increase economic development within focused districts. For anyone who was around a few years ago, New Bedford's downtown, there was a 4x4 block radius downtown that was the first TDI district that ended in 2019. So I kind of overlapped in my position with that for about a year. And what you see on the screen here is the fiscal year 23 through 25 TDI districts, New Bedford is on there again because there is a district in the near north end of New Bedford. So that was announced a couple weeks ago. And so we have been working with TDI since 2019 because they chose New Bedford as the pilot city to launch what's now officially called the TDI Creative Cities Initiative. This is a private-public partnership. So the Barr Foundation, a private foundation, has awarded MassDevelopment TDI with a grant to implement this initiative. So we want to thank MassDevelopment TDI and the Barr Foundation for their support of arts, culture, and creativity in New Bedford, as well as throughout the Commonwealth. So we're in our third and final year of TDI Creative Cities, which, as it says here, is a multi-year program that concentrates resources in graduated TDI districts that want to focus specifically on amplifying the impact that arts, culture, and the creative economy have on long-term economic vitality. So those are our funders for the Art is Everywhere grant. So this is one component of this Creative Cities initiative. And this grant program, the criteria prioritizes inspiring and creative ideas that directly address a current challenge facing residents, visitors, or businesses in New Bedford's neighborhoods. And we've outlined some areas that you can focus on, such as arts and culture-based solutions that expedite recovery from the pandemic, support the advancement of diversity, equity, inclusion, and access in all forms, or strengthen the creative network throughout the city. In all cases, so no matter what you are applying for, projects that focus on diversity, equity, inclusion, and access will be prioritized. So I want to review a few of the former grant recipients of this program. The first one in 2020, which was the only one in 2020, was Third Eye Youth Empowerment, and they did a program that they called Your New Bedford, and it was live streams, monthly series featuring music, dance, spoken word, live painting, artist demos, community conversations, and they paid artists of all genres. This, as everyone remembers quite vividly, was when the pandemic happened. So they had to pivot their original application, which was going to be in-person pop-up events all over the city and neighborhoods, to these virtual gatherings. And they partnered, this is only a handful of the many organizations that came on and shared resources and shared creativity. And of course, this was when George Floyd was murdered and the Black Lives Matter protests began. So there were a lot of really excellent conversations that happened during this time. So fast forward to 2021, and there were 6 projects that were funded by the Art is Everywhere grant. This South Coast Learning Trails was a partnership of the New Bedford Birch Grade 3 Partnership and South Coast Early Childhood Coalition, and they matched artists with businesses to create murals on the storefronts that are based on the 5 basics principles, which is an early childhood education concept that encourages parents to engage with their young ones. And Tracy Barbosa, who is in the bottom right photo here, and I believe on the call now, was the lead artist coordinator. So she coordinated amongst the artists and businesses. And it's still going on today up in the North End. Here is New Bedford Children. Marissa Faye Martin, who is the executive director, created the Creative Resource Center for Early Childhood Educators. This is located at the Kilburn Mill in the South End, and her space is a resource that has innovative materials. These are upcycled, donated materials She has a library and does workshops that are targeted to early childhood educators and teachers. And it's free for all teachers who are based in New Bedford. I believe there are over 40 preschool and early childhood centers, both for-profit and nonprofit, all over the city. And next week, she is having a workshop with a woman who is world renowned for her early childhood education theory. And she's 88 years old. So we're really excited for Marissa and the opportunity for New Bedford teachers. Here is La Soul Renaissance. This is a project led by Eric Andrade, and he did a series of events, mostly at Cape Verdean Vets Hall, that highlighted and celebrated cross-cultural solidarity and community conversations that focused on African and Indigenous solidarity. And the one of them that was not at the Verdean Vets Hall, but was outside, was the dedication of the Dr. Jabril Kazan Park that is on the corner of Hillman and Ash Street in New Bedford. And that really was a beautiful celebration. And the others here, I categorized them. So Pandemic Renaissance, The Art of Surviving C-19, was a film project by Cape Verdean artists Iva Brito and Ali DeSousa that interviewed many not only artists, but community members and how they used creativity to survive, the 2 years during the pandemic. We also had the next two, Pride Month, Kaleidoscope and Highlighting Diverse Stories. They both received a smaller amount of grant funding. So this grant is from $1,000 to $20,000. So they get $2,500. That helped the SouthCoast LGBTQ Network do their Kaleidoscope Art Through Your Eyes exhibit at Gallery X. They also had a book club, the Healing Otherness Handbook, with Dr. Stacy Reicherzer. I apologize if I'm pronouncing her name wrong. And then finally, Highlighting Diverse Stories, New Bedford's Middle Schoolers as Literacy Ambassadors was a pilot for that was at our sister's school. And so those students and scholars at our sister's school wrote book reviews that were then published online on the Scallop's website. And I've heard that it was so popular that they've continued doing a newspaper club. So both Emma York and Sawyer Pollitt are still involved in that project. So those are a few of the projects that, we funded in the past. This is a very new grant program, so there's a wide range. I don't want you to get stuck thinking that you need to do something exactly like one of these projects. So I want to review the eligibility and the application. So I'm going to move from my slide deck over to the New Bedford Creative website. And I just want to make sure, did everyone see me switch to the New Bedford Creative website? Yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you for those thumbs up. I appreciate it. Okay. So most of our social media and what have you, our press release that went out said you can apply newbedfordcreative.org. If the link brings you here, you want to click on grant programs. Some of our links will bring you straight to our grant program page. At the top of the page, we facilitate Art is Everywhere, which is what we're talking about now, and Wicked Cool Places. Wicked Cool Places, that grant program will be available this fall. In the blue box, if you're ready to apply, and we're going to review this, it's click here to apply. That's going to bring you to the application. But before we go there and do that, I want to just review a few more of the guidelines. So this, as I mentioned, is a program from 1,000 to 20,000. So you can do smaller scalable projects. Those, I mean, pretty much all of these are going to be experimental in some way, at least we hope. So you can do a smaller budget project or a larger budget project. We will award within that range. And there's a wide range that this award can be used for: material and direct project costs, operational expenses, labor staff time, capital improvements, subcontractors, vendors, or third-party assistance. And then in addition to this cash grant award, each grant recipient will also be offered a 1-year part-time membership for one team member to the Co-Creative Center that is downtown on Union Street. Dina Hayden is the director of the Co-Creative Center, as well as an opportunity to participate in professional development and training. And there are many organizations that will be doing that training. This is just a short list, but there will be others happening throughout the year. So the timeline, one of the most important dates to note is the deadline is before midnight on May 2nd. That's a Monday, May 2nd, 2022. In addition to today's information session, I will be doing office hours. I'm aiming to do them on Tuesdays between 12 and 2. I realize that's not going to fit into everyone's schedules. So please email me whether or not those hours work or not. If they do work, great. If they don't, please send me a few dates that do, and we'll schedule a one-on-one meeting. As I mentioned, May 2nd by midnight is the deadline to apply. The grant award winners will be announced June 10th, that's a Friday, and work can begin as soon as contracts are signed and you receive your funding, which means mid-June through mid-June 2023. So they can begin as soon as mid-June 2022, and you have a year to complete, and there will be some reporting along the way, but we will address that with the grant award recipients. Eligible applicants, everyone is eligible. Individuals, organizations, nonprofit, for-profit, community groups. You do need to obviously select one person as the main contact for the grant applicant, but we do encourage partnerships, collaborations, etc. And I'll go over that a little bit later. As I mentioned, the grant criteria prioritizes inspiring and creative ideas that directly address a current challenge facing residents, visitors, or businesses in New Bedford's neighborhoods. So, we're coming out of a pandemic. We're still dealing with the pandemic. We're still dealing with a lot of issues here in New Bedford. So, we want to encourage everyone to come up with some really big ideas on how to address these issues. We're not expecting these grants to solve a problem, but if you can address or impact a current challenge, we want to hear from you. So on the website, we have a wide range of, this is just a list to get inspired by, but really what is going to be the most impactful is if there's a challenge that speaks to your heart, that you are invested in and want to make a difference in your neighborhood or community. So I'm going to move down to the evaluation criteria, how the grants are being scored by the review committee. The narrative of how you address that challenge with an arts or culture or creative solution is your narrative. That's your project, describing your project and what you're out to do. That gets 10 points. Community benefit. How well does your project benefit the community and the specific participants or intended audiences? And we have a long list right here. That is also 10 points. Again, projects that impact diversity, equity, inclusion, and access will be prioritized. The third category is partnership. How well does the project include partnerships and collaborations? So you want to have at least one partner. If you are an artist, you need at least one partner, whether it's a property owner, whether it's a community group, whether it's a nonprofit, whether it's a city department. You want to have at least one partner with you so you're not doing this project alone. And we also highly recommend at least one member of the project team be based in the city of New Bedford. Most of the applications we've received, all of the members of the project team are based in New Bedford. So that's partnership. That's 5 points. Planning and timeline is 3 points. We just want to see that you have a summary of planning that's sufficient to ensure the implementation of your project. And again, that can be over the course of a year, does not need to be detailed. We just need an outline. And finally, budget, 2 points. We just want a budget that's clear and reasonable. And is the project feasible within the suggested budget? So those are the how the applications are being scored. And then here is the selection committee. And I have one more person to add to this. So we have a wide range, I believe, of individuals that are very involved in New Bedford, in the community. And the 6th person that I finalized today is on this call, Ceuma Rosa from the Immigrants Assistance Center. So as you can see, we have Stephanie Harrington Sloan, who's the Assistant Director for the New Bedford Health Department, Sydney A. Murray II, Board Member for the Southeastern Mass Chapter of American Red Cross, Denise Porcher, who's the Executive Director of the Island Foundation, and Carol Ryan, who's the President of NB Strong. She's a Program Director at Coastline Elderly Services and a small business owner of Baskets of Grace. And I'm sure you can find her at some upcoming Buy Black New Bedford pop-up vendor markets. So let me answer that question. So the question in the chat, what role does the NBEDC play in the selection? Am I there to help committee members review the materials for context? So yes, I am there to facilitate the selection of the grants. I'm there to answer any of the selection committee's questions along the way. And then I'm the one that facilitates the meeting when we review all of the scores of the grants and determine who gets awarded and in what amount gets awarded. I want to be clear. I do not score the applications at all. And I do not provide my own opinions about who should get funded or not. I can answer questions regarding, I mean, these are people who know New Bedford, so it's not like I'm having to answer questions about certain neighborhoods or anything like that. If anything, it might be about artists if they're unfamiliar with some of the artists' work, but usually that's addressed in the grant application. If that doesn't answer your question, I will be happy to go into further detail and towards the end of this session. So grant terms and conditions. Project applicants will be required to sign a grant agreement in order to receive grant funds. So this is a contract or a letter of agreement. Along the way, project applicants will be required to provide data about the project at key project milestones to be detailed within project-specific grant agreements as requested by MassDevelopment. So MassDevelopment in the past has requested 2 reports. There's a first report that is usually, 1 to 3 months out, and then a final report, which is a more detailed report that is 1 month after you conclude your project. So all projects must be ready to begin planning within 4 weeks and complete within 1 year of receiving the grant award notification. So that is clear. And then I'm not going to go into this. There's a little bit more background on our website about how we were selected and the past 3 years. So I'm going to scroll right back up to the top of the page, and I'm going to bring you to what is new this year regarding this grant application. When you click here to apply, it is going to bring you to New Bedford Economic Development Council's submittable.com page. So we are now going to an online application portal. Just in case this may not have been clear at the beginning, New Bedford Creative is housed at the New Bedford Economic Development Council. So this is new this year. We really hope that it's going to make the application process easier. That's our intention anyway. We'll be looking forward to hearing from all of you, whether or not we've succeeded. So we are the first. There's something about us. New Bedford Creative is going first. So we're the first ones to do submittable. There will be soon multiple grant applications on this portal. So right now, it's art is everywhere. Now, if you click the guidelines, it doesn't have as many detailed guidelines as what I just went over. It really is an introduction. It does have, down here if you have any questions, to sign up for office hours, etc., to contact me, Margo Saulnier, at artsnewbedford@gmail.com. And then if you run into any technical issues while filling out the form or need assistance from Submittable, there's a link right here that you can click and get connected to a Submittable tech support. So, you click the submit button, and then this is the application. Now, I got here because I've already signed in. There will be one more step along the way, and you will need to create a free account. So it's your name and your email address, and then it'll ask for you to create a password. So once you click on that, this is the application. The applicant information, like I mentioned earlier, you want a lead applicant name. So we need one person as the main contact, first name, last name. Are you applying as an organization company? No, if you're an individual artist, then you click no, you move on. If you are applying on behalf of an organization company, you click yes, and this additional information will pop up. We are asking the first year of operation and how your organization or company is organized, because we want to be tracking to see if there are additional grant opportunities this year that your company is eligible for through the EDC. So that's why we're asking those questions. I'm going to click on no and go through this like I was an individual artist. So we ask for your address. Is mailing address different than the physical address? If it is, then this pops up, you put it there. If it's not, you move on. Phone number, email is required. Website is optional. If you have one, great. If not, don't worry about it. Social media and/or relevant creative platforms. This can be a long list if you have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, SoundCloud, Etsy. I mean, I don't like, you can put whatever you want there. If you have multiple platforms, we are asking you to use a bulleted list and just copy and paste in there. This consent to allow the names and photos of project team members. This is promotional purposes for us. When we make the grant announcement, we want to include as many photos and descriptions as we can. This does not impact your eligibility. So if for some reason you do not want to consent, you click no, and then we'll have a conversation when it comes time to announcing if you're selected as a grant recipient. But it does not impact your eligibility. I want to make that clear. Now we get into the project information. So before I do, Jasmine, can you be on the lookout if people in the chat have questions that I'm not answering?
Yeah, do you want me to bring up some of the questions now or wait till the end? Because I see a few questions in here.
Okay, let's do them now before I move on.
I don't know if you answered this already. How much will it help or hurt an application if applicant has won Wicked Cool Places grant in the past year? Did you go over that?
No, I did not. So it does not impact this grant at all. This is an entirely different grant criteria, and this is entirely separate review committee. So no, it does not impact if you've received a Wicked Cool Places grant this year. Also, I should mention, it does not impact if you've received an Art is Everywhere grant from any previous grant recipients can apply again. Any previous or current Wicked Cool Place grant recipients can apply for this grant.
Okay, those are all the questions.
Perfect. Thank you, Jasmine. Next, project information, your project title. This is listing the physical area or addresses for the project. If you have multiple addresses, we ask to please use this bulleted list so we can track them. Does this location require permission of the property owners? If it does, we'd like you to attach a letter of support from the property owner. If it doesn't, then click no and move on. Does your project require any permits from the city of New Bedford? If it does, we want you to have the list here. We are not expecting everyone to know exactly what permits are needed. So we just want you to know if you're doing this on City of New Bedford property, which would include parks, recreation, and beaches, to put that there. And also, if you need help identifying what permits, put that here as well. All right. Now we get into the juicy stuff. So here's your narrative. Describe the project's narrative. Right above, you want to be making sure you're answering the questions. What challenge does your community or the city of New Bedford currently face? And what creative solution does your Art is Everywhere project offer to address this challenge, utilizing the arts, culture, or creativity? This is arts in the most broadest definitions of all genres, of all, I don't know what else, but as in the broadest possible terms for arts and the broadest possible terms for culture, as well as creativity. I have, just as a test, I copied and pasted the 3 pages of the Art is Everywhere guidelines into this narrative, and it did not have a cap limit. So I do not recommend putting your entire thesis into here. However, what I'm hoping is that you're not going to come up against a cap for word count or character count. So copy and paste your narrative in there. Same for community benefit. Describing your project's impact, make sure you're answering those 3 questions. How does your project benefit the community? Who are the specific participants or intended audiences? And how is your project driven by and for a diverse population? Moving on, partnership. List all the partners in the project, individuals, community groups, organizations, or companies. And right here, provide any histories or biographies of the lead project organizers and partners. So you don't need to provide a history or biography of everyone, especially if you have, half dozen or more partners in your project, but definitely you want to provide those, that background for your lead project organizers. Planning and timeline, list by month the specific activities that will occur to implement your project, including the planning portion. So you could have a whole month that's just planning meetings. And projects, like I mentioned earlier, may begin mid-June 2022 and need to be completed by mid-June 2023. The budget part of this. What is the total amount requested? So the minimum you can request is $1,000. The maximum is $20,000. If you try putting in $21,000, you're going to get an error message. So you need to be between $1,000 and $20,000. Your cost for the project has no cap. So if this Art is Everywhere project is one component of a larger project that you're doing that's like $125,000, you can put that here. All right. And then we're asking to upload an itemized budget for your project that includes project costs and project revenue. And I have multiple, I just said to submittable, any acceptable file type. So it can be a Word document. If spreadsheets aren't your thing, you can do a Word document, PDF, JPEG, or spreadsheet options. If you need help with a budget template, I'm happy to provide some budget templates for you to look at. Eligible grant expenses include material and direct project costs, operational expenses, including labor, staff time, capital improvements, subcontractors, vendors, or third-party assistance. And then examples of revenue include the Art is Everywhere grant request and other grants, government, foundation, or private sector, cash donations, in-kind services, projected project income, etc. So we're not expecting, and your Art is Everywhere project may be like, you're requesting $20,000. Your total cost of project is also $20,000. That's fine. If you are already have received other grant funding from public or private sources or donations, etc., then we want to know that in the revenue section of your budget. And finally, additional materials. So you can upload up to 5 files. We're asking this be a PDF, and this can include photos or renderings of the project, a team photo or headshots of the project organizers, any previous relevant work that will support your project narrative and community benefit statement. So any previous relevant work that will help the review committee score your application. Now, I don't know if you've been noticing this, I have. It's automatically saving as I go. I know I really didn't put much information into this application, but I would save a draft anyway. I always recommend saving often when you're doing an application like this. You're not required to, like, you can save this draft and then log out and come back to it the next day, the next week, before the deadline, obviously. And then when you're ready to submit, click on the submit button. I'm going to stop my screen share and see if anyone has any additional questions.
I have a question. So once the applicant goes through the entire process, especially if they're in a different language, there'll be someone, well, the application process, or even before the application process, is there, they can contact you to clarify, like when it comes to budgeting, because I'm pretty sure people are going to have questions when it comes to budgeting and the grants and how they're going to spend the grant.
Yes, so that's why I have those office hours available that I highly recommend everyone sign up for. And I'm happy to share examples of budgets in the past, that it can be a very simple budget if it doesn't require a lot of expenses, or a very intricate budget. Some of you here are from nonprofit organizations and you're doing some more complicated projects that may require a lot more of a detailed budget. As long as it's clear and reasonable, that the review committee members will say, okay, this is a great project. It looks like a reasonable amount of money that they can implement it, and that's how they're scoring you in that budget. You may notice that the budget score is the lowest with 2 points, because I've found over the years that someone may have a really great idea but isn't an expert in doing budgets. So they just may need a little bit of help. So that's why the narrative is 10 points. Community benefit is 10 points. Budget is 2 points, because we recognize that, it's not everyone's strengths, even those of us who've been in the field for many years and are dealing with budgets on a regular basis. So that's why that's like that. But I'm happy to talk to anyone. I have used the office hours to actually create a budget with some individual artists who were applying. And so don't ever feel like you need to do this on your own. I'm here, and Jasmine Baird, who we should have introduced you, Jasmine. Jasmine Baird is the Senior Creative Fellow for New Bedford Creative, and she's also a resource for everyone. Can you say hello so we get you on?
Hi.
Hi, I remember you.
Yeah, same. Nice to see you. Nice to see everyone here too.
Thank you, Jasmine. So any other questions? All right, I'm going to share my screen again. What I also recommend is that community benefit portion of the application. It is really important that you are as specific as possible with your intended audience. I've noticed that those are the applications that are scoring higher. And I wanted to share, let me share my screen again, and I will paste this in the chat as well. There are two websites that if you're unfamiliar with the demographics of the neighborhood that you want to target, why is this not working? Okay. I have two websites to share. This one is, paste it. Hold on. Try that again. This website is the Office of Policy Development and Research. This you can plug in an area and has the qualified census tract. And qualified census tracts are areas that are 50% or more of households are income eligible. What that means is they have less than 60% of area median gross income. And if anyone has applied for a federal grant, this starts to become important with federal grants, but it could also help you if you are doing a project in one of these highlighted areas in the city of New Bedford. I would definitely write a sentence about that in your community benefit portion. And then the second website that I'd like to share is this geomapping.
Just one question going back to the shaded area. How
Yep.
would you word that? When
That is an excellent question.
including that.
I would say that this art is everywhere project takes place in a qualified census tract. And right, not there, right here on the left-hand side, that's how you would say it. Qualified census tract, TRACT. Okay, but let me move on to this next one, which is the geomapping. And I'm going to paste this in the chat. This you can plug in an address. So this is the office of New Bedford Creative and the NBEDC at 1213 Purchase Street in New Bedford. And that's that little red dot right there. So you want to click on, make sure you click on 2021, because if you have it on 2022, you won't find any data because the data doesn't exist yet, hasn't been reported yet. So it will give you your tract code. This is those census tracts. And then when you click on the census demographic data, it will, so the tract income level is low, so that we're in a low income area. And then you may pull up, I don't know, if your project involves affordable housing, or you know, you can see who owner occupied versus rental units. There may be some information within your project area that you would want to capture, and this is one way to do it. It does give you some median income, population figures, and housing. So again, this may, I don't want to intimidate anyone. You don't have to do this, but it would be interesting, if you don't know, to get more information about the area where you want to have your where your project, and oh, the chat all came up. Okay, I just pasted it. Thank you, Lindsay, for asking that question, because I came up, and I'm gonna stop sharing my screen now again. That may be helpful not only for this grant, but for other grants that you might do in the future. So if you want to use it, great. If not, don't worry about it. Any other questions? Okay, So just remember newbedfordcreative.org and under grant programs, click the link to apply. And I am going to paste in the chat, be in touch with me if you want to schedule office hours. My email is arts, New Bedford, all one word, @gmail.com. Thank you everyone for coming today, and I'll be in touch soon. Thank you. The Art is Everywhere grant intends to advance New Bedford as one of the most culturally unique and creative cities in America. New Bedford was selected as the pilot city for MassDevelopment's TDI Creative Cities initiative to support arts-based economic development. Historically, New Bedford has always been creative. There have been poets, writers, painters, and entrepreneurs starting their own businesses. New Bedford has this entrepreneurial spirit. There's this creative community here that is really collaborative and supports one another, and we want to build on that.